Lucien de Fontein stood in the antechamber waiting, feeling his pulse quicken and his mouth go dry. It was always the same before a testing. His breath steamed on the air. This part of the castle lacked heating, and he was grateful for his vest, dress shirt, and frock coat. He clenched, stretched, and clenched again his nearly numb fingers, chiding himself for not requesting gloves. He made a mental note to obtain calfskin fingerless ones, assuming, of course, he lived out the rest of the day. The room was a simple affair. Behind him stood tall double doors. Ornate black iron hinges lent the aged wood a severe solemnity. A pair of matching doors loomed ahead, a portal to the training room beyond. 2 pews, narrow and uncomfortable, ran down either side of the chamber. A faded flag in the scarlet and black of House Fontein had been left in the corner, the fabric providing a feast for the moths. Latticed windows let in a pale autumnal light, throwing a diffuse net shadow over the interior. A lone pot plant grown monstrous and a full-length looking-glass were the only other decorations. Biology was not his forte, although he suspected the growth was poisonous in some way. The looking-glass reflected a man-child of 18 summers, a grave expression etched onto his face. He had polished his knee-length boots to an impressive shine, the deep brown leather worn and sturdy. The buckles had been buffed to a honey-colored gleam. His trousers and frock coat were of a blue so deep as to be mistaken for black in poor light. He was particularly taken with the fine embroidery on the lapels, a repeating motif of vines and leaves. The buttons had been made from shark teeth on his insistence. Vermeer had told him the creatures regrew their teeth many times over the course of their lives. The idea of renewal had appealed to Lucien. The possibility of attaining something once lost. He'd imagined the buttoner cutting his fingers to shreds on the awful teeth. Filing down the triangular shards into ivory discs must have been an ordeal. Still, there were worse things in Domain. Hoops of copper run to verdigris decorated the epaulets of his jacket, just as he'd requested. Being Orfano, he was expected to present a certain profile and had taken a fancy to sketching unlikely outfits when his tutors bored him. All in all, he rather liked his new wardrobe. Too bad it would see ruin at the hands of his opponents. Worst yet, it might be the outfit he died in. He was aware enough by now to know his obsession with finery was simply compensation. He couldn't change the way he looked. He hoped he might yet grow into a more aristocratic-looking young man. His brow was too heavy for his tastes, his eyes too deeply sunken, lips too thin. He felt rather stocky and squat, sulking for a month when he realized he would never be as tall as Gallia. No matter. He'd be the better of Gallia in other ways, ways that mattered. He raised his right hand to his hair, thick, black, coarse hair that he'd let grow long against Superiore Giancarlo's wishes, and Mistress Corvo and a number of other teachers. He hesitated from lifting the swath of black, not wanting to see the disfigurement beneath. And his nails. The newer staff thought him effete, or affected, or both. His nails matched his hair, but he'd never once painted them. Angelicola had been unable to tell Lucien why his nails should be such a dismal hue, nor had the belligerent Dottore managed to decipher why Lucien bled clear fluid that turned pale blue after a few seconds. It was the same for all of the Orfani. They hid their disfigurements as best they could. The deformities were an open secret among the subjects of Domain, in spite of the Orfani's attempts to appear normal. Lucien knew full well the common folk branded the Orfani witchlings, strege in the old tongue. He felt the familiar sting of Peake. His hand strayed toward the ceramic blade resting in its sheath on his right hip. Lucien drew the weapon, holding it out in front of himself, the tip just inches from the floor, looking almost casual. Almost. He brought the blade up to his face in the fencer's salute. None of the Orfani were allowed to carry a metal blade. It was tradition, so they said. Only proven men or women could be trusted to carry such an expensive weapon. Metal cost money and could not be squandered on the young. Lucien didn't believe a word of it.